Everyone. Nice to see everyone today. I'm Stacy Sherman. I am the Outreach Director at Catholic Charities. So I'm the one that communicates back and forth with Debbie about grant applications and renewals and progress reports. And I also work with our overall outreach division team, which leads some poverty reduction initiatives, as well as jail and prison reentry and volunteer services. Now I'll hand it over to Tracy.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Tracy Morrison. I'm the Executive Director of Catholic Charities. I recognize a couple of your faces from the last time we were able to be in person. What a treat. We didn't know what a treat that would be, just being in person with each other a couple of years ago. Very excited to be here today and share some updates with you. Also, thank you for having us. Megan, do you want to go next? You're on my screen.
So I am Megan Stanmeyer. I am the Public Relations Director, and I supervise the Waterloo location.
And Miriam? Oh, sorry.
Sure, I can go next. Good afternoon. My name is Zervang. I'm the Legal Director of our Immigration Legal Services Program with Catholic Charities. And I'll turn it over to Miriam.
Good afternoon. My name is Miriam Antunes de Mayolo. I am an immigration attorney in the Waterloo office for Catholic Charities.
That's all of our team. Thanks, Debbie.
Okay, so then we'd like to just have you kind of give a higher level agency view of your kind of your mission and goals as an agency, and then of course kind of dig in a little more to the United Way funded programs with a little time for Q&A at the end.
That would be really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm excited to be here and share a little bit more about Catholic Charities and then more specifically about immigration legal services. The mission of Catholic Charities is threefold: to reduce poverty, strengthen families, and empower communities. And our priorities and goals really closely align with yours to advance the common good by focusing on your three key areas: education, health, and financial stability or income. More of a high-level view of Catholic Charities, in addition to providing immigration legal services, we also provide quite a few other services, but they're all aimed at serving either underserved populations or populations that really are left behind and not served at all and tend to fall through the cracks. Populations like immigrants and refugees, individuals who are recently released from incarceration, jail or prison, seniors, adults with disabilities, providing them affordable housing, individuals that don't have health insurance and need access to mental health services, and families living in poverty, working toward financial stability. It's also really important to note that all of our services are available to anyone in need, regardless of their faith background or no faith background or ethnicity. One of the common misnomers is that Catholic Charities, you must only serve Catholics, right? And that couldn't be further from the truth. We help anyone who is in need. Looking more closely at this past year, and I know you guys have probably heard this from all the agencies you're visiting, but this past year has really tested everyone's sanity and faith with the challenges that COVID presented. But we quickly tried to convert our services that were nearly 100% done in person, face-to-face, to be virtual almost overnight. And thankfully, we have a really incredibly talented and dedicated team of professionals that not only made this happen, but surprisingly, they continued servicing roughly the same number of people compared to the previous year. So during COVID, the Catholic churches took up a special COVID relief fund, and Catholic Charities has been able to distribute over $500,000 over the 30 county service area that we cover. We cover the 30 most northeast counties in Iowa. If you think about the state, just kind of divided in quadrants. And about $30,000 of that funding was specific to Blackhawk County. 64 families, I believe we were able to help there. A little bit more about me and the evolution of our immigration legal services program. I've been with Catholic Charities this is my 14th year, and I've really had a front row seat to witness how the social needs of a community can so quickly change. And I personally find that United Way organizations, both in our state and across the country, are so valuable because you are the ones that have your ears to the ground watching. We need to put our resources and noticing these trends and then leveraging your resources to help nonprofits who end up addressing these needs. But that's how our relationship first began, and Catholic Charities partnered with Cedar Valley United Way. About 15 years ago, Catholic Charities started an immigrant drop-in center. And it was kind of just a place that immigrants could come to seek help with a variety of needs, whether that be interpretation or translation, or help with basic needs like housing and employment. But we found that the number one need that continued to surface year after year was a need for affordable, quality legal services for immigrants and refugees. There were, unfortunately, at that time, well-intended groups of people that were attempting to help immigrants with legal immigration paperwork. But however, these groups were not qualified to provide legal advice, and unfortunately ended up hurting some of the individuals that they were working with, and even in some cases, people were deported. We knew that we wanted to respond and needed to respond in a broad way across the Archdiocese. So we hired our first immigration attorney in 2017. And that's one of our 4 strategic priorities for the past 4 years, is to expand our immigration legal services program. And we now have 5 full-time immigration attorneys and 2 legal assistants. And 2 of these individuals are located in our Waterloo office, Miriam, who you met, and our legal assistant is also located in our Waterloo office. But thanks to your partnership with Catholic Charities, these 2 individuals are currently providing legal services and representation to 286 active people or families. So together we are really helping immigrant families who are unable to afford access to immigration attorneys the ability to do so. And because of that, we're improving their financial stability by helping them remove the barriers to employment. So we're very, very thankful for your partnership that made this possible. And unless anyone has any higher level questions about Catholic Charities, I'll turn it over to Zer, who is also an immigration attorney herself. Zer was our first attorney hired and has been instrumental in expanding our program.
Thank you, Tracy. That's a great backdrop to what I'm going to share, which is I've been with Catholic Charities. This is my 5th year. I was one of the first attorneys that Tracy mentioned that we hired to join Catholic Charities. And boy, has it changed a lot since I first started. And I'm so grateful. And that change, even with some growing pains, cannot have been possible without support from organizations such as United Way. It's so crucial for your not just financial support, but your support in the many things that you do to allow us to do the job that we do. But I just want to give a little bit of background into and kind of touching into, wow, it's been a crazy 12, 14 months. And the things that we've had to do that we didn't think we had to do, but it's been just sort of almost normal to be able to meet with clients. And we've been able to leverage some of the technology to allow us to continue to serve clients. Despite the pandemic, we continue to serve clients even in these challenging times. And knowing that there are some barriers for us to be able to continue to serve clients, we leverage technology. Nowadays, most people have a cell phone, right? And so we use technology like Zoom and WhatsApp and good standard, just the telephone to communicate and text and email clients and meet with clients through those different methodologies. And it's been successful. And in fact, we've had really positive feedback from our clients to say, this just makes life easier for me. I don't have to worry about transportation or childcare or whatnot, because I can do it in the comfort of my home or in my car if I'm, in between different meetings. And so those are things that we've learned to also adapt. But more than just the legal services and the consultations that we provide to immigrants and refugees, one of the things that we really want to stay true to our mission is really helping those most vulnerable, right? Our immigrant and refugee brothers and sisters. So in addition to the direct legal services that Miriam provides and our team in Waterloo provides to immigrants and refugees, if you haven't had a chance, you should definitely sign up if we have future legal seminars. Miriam is one of our best public speakers to educate people about the changing immigration landscape. She is a seasoned immigration attorney, has been in practice for 21 years. She knows what she's talking about. So we are so, so lucky that we were able to persuade her to come from private practice into nonprofit and to be able to help us continue the mission, the work that we do. So in addition to the direct legal services, advocacy and education are core components to the work that the Immigration Legal Services does. And we truly believe that financial barriers or not having money to see an attorney should not be a reason why someone doesn't have access to good quality legal advice. At the very least, giving you or immigrants the option or advice or information about what your options are. And sometimes those options are, you can't really do anything. Just wait until the law changes and try to survive until the law helps you out, right? And so, in speaking to that, that's why your funding and support is crucial to allow us to continue to do that work and to help educate and serve those most vulnerable, because not is there just lack information, but misinformation, disinformation is also out there that we have to combat and try to educate not just our partners, but immigrants and refugees themselves. So your funding and support helps us continue to do that. And we really do see that part of the work that we do is really faith-driven, and we put that faith into action, right? And so that faith into action means your funding and support allows Miriam and I and our team to be able to reach out to not just the numbers that Tracy just said, the 280 some folks individuals that we help. Those are individuals, but they have families. So the magnitude, that ripple effect, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of families that are helped and impacted with your support. You may not be in the office with Miriam and I meeting with clients, but your financial support knows that you should know that you are there helping these hundreds of families not just survive, but thrive. And that's what we want to do. We talk about helping clients achieve self-sufficiency, and part of our poverty reduction. Immigration status is the largest barrier, or lack of immigration status is one of the significant barriers that prevents immigrants and refugees to be able to thrive and be part of the society or community. So when we are able to come in and help remove that barrier, and that's a huge barrier, they can then get their green card. They can then get a work permit. They can then have legal status to allow them to be fully participating Iowans and your neighbors. And that is really what we want to do, is even though maybe perhaps that number seems small in the scheme of the number of Iowans or immigrants in the state, those are families that we're helping with your support. Your funding is also crucial because your funding allows us to provide affordable legal services. Hopefully none of you will ever need an attorney to do any, to deal with or untangle legal issues. But if an immigrant who just arrived in Iowa, fled Guatemala, fleeing persecution and terror and violence, arrives at our doorsteps here in Iowa with literally $0 and just the clothes on their backs, and very little personal belongings. How are they, and they don't have an ability to earn or work legally yet, how are they going to afford to go to an attorney to say, and ask for legal help when most private attorneys are charging thousands of dollars just for a retainer so they can talk to them, or just to say, you can have 30 minutes of my time for a consultation, right? So we want to make sure that not having money is not going to allow people to not have access to quality, affordable legal services. And that's why we really believe in the mission of making our consultations free and accessible for folks. And your funding and support allows us to do that, right? Secondarily, if it's not obvious, Miriam and I are not just only bicultural, but bilingual attorneys. And when you put us in front of clients that come through the door and they see someone that looks like them, they are much more inclined to be able to say, finally, I can talk to someone that looks like me, understands, even if they come to me and I may not be of Latin American heritage or Hispanic, Latino heritage, but I have gone through the same journey or similar journey, and I can relate to the clients that we're serving and the challenges and the stories that they will share with us, right? So it's so crucial to allow us to have that additional support so that we can continue to hire and have bilingual, bicultural staff that our clients can trust and relate to. In addition to that, part of how we help individuals is that when your support and funding comes to our agency, that $1 is multiplied by hundreds because we do so much with that dollar. We do, as I mentioned, everything that we're discussing, but it's the fees that we charge is very much affordable. Most private attorneys charge, as I mentioned, thousands of dollars. We charge generally between 50 to 20% of that. And even then, if someone comes to our door and says, I can't afford the amount that you're asking for, we have an ability to provide them a fee reduction or a fee waiver. So no one will ever be turned away because they do not have money to pay for legal services. And that's what your program and your funding and support allows us to do. And so I just want to say thank you again for the support that you've provided our agency and our program to allow us to do this part. So you've done the hard part, which is provide funding so that Miriam and I and our team could be here to do our job. I think that's all I wanted to share. I know that we've shared a handout with your team to just kind of give you some stats and data. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask Miriam and myself. I think at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Miriam to maybe share some personal client stories and the challenges that we face, not just with COVID, but all the other challenges in terms of continuing to provide quality, affordable legal services to immigrants and refugees in Waterloo.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that. And thank you, Tracy. I think that it's probably hard to picture the kind of difference that your organization makes in our lives and in the lives of my clients. I came to Iowa in 1994. I'm from Peru originally, and I came here legally. My husband was a US citizen. I spoke English, and that was so far the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I've done some hard things. So I came legally, I had, no legal problems. I was educated. So I can't even imagine what my clients have to go through when they come here, not by choice, but because they need to, but because they are fleeing for their lives. So, other than a 5-year stint in New York, I've been living in the Cedar Valley since 1994. I graduated from the University of Iowa Law School in 1998. And the biggest joke when I used to go to immigration lawyers conferences was like, Iowa? Are there any immigrants there? People picture, Iowa as, very homogeneous, white, Midwestern state. And, they were surprised to hear that until Postville. Postville put, Iowa and immigration on the map. And I was very involved in post-bill. I was in private practice. I was in private practice for 17 years before joining Catholic Charities. And most immigration attorneys in Iowa do some pro bono work. So I did pro bono work. I had an office with an associate and 2 paralegals, and we were very busy. But not until I came to Catholic Charities in 2018 have I seen the kind of really destitute, poor, vulnerable people that we serve. I've never seen, clients. I've never had a client who was 6 months old. I've never had a client who suffered from Alzheimer's and was unable to speak even, who was completely abandoned and could have never been able to get representation or the ability to show what her legal status was in order to access some services. I've never had clients who were little children, or people who, were so traumatized, extremely traumatized about the abuse that they had suffered in their home countries, that they were actually physically unable to tell what had happened to them. We sometimes have to get a psychologist to try to intervene for our clients to be able to talk. So the difference that you are making in the lives of these people is just remarkable. It is very hard to overstate how much of a difference your organization is making. And I'm so thankful for that. It is very hard for a lot of us, Zer and, my colleagues and most immigration attorneys, it has been really hard to go through this journey, in the past year, 4 years, really, when we saw more and more barriers when it comes to immigration and demonization of immigrants. It has been really, really hard to do our work, but because of organizations like yours, we have been able to do it. And we are facing yet another change in immigration and in immigration law. President Biden has said that he has started actually a number of initiatives that are probably going to change immigration law. And every time we see that kind of change in immigration, we see a lot of non-attorneys trying to take advantage of people who are vulnerable, who are desperate. And they tell them, yeah, give me $10,000, $15,000, and I'll get you a green card. And people want to believe that is true. And then they fall prey of these people, even attorneys who do not practice immigration law. So I can anticipate that the need for this is going to continue and only increase, because we just heard that 3 days ago, the government passed. It was published that Haiti now is going to have TPS, which is temporary protected status. So people from Haiti who were here May 21st of this year are able to apply for that status and to get a work permit. So every time that happens, you see a lot of people trying to take advantage of applicants for those benefits. So your dollars, your financial support helps us serve that population that would never be able to afford an attorney. And I want you to know that, myself and the name of my clients, how thankful we are for that. And if you have any questions about the process, about, our clients, I'll be very happy to share those. I believe that I spoke earlier about this lady who had Alzheimer's and was in an institution, and her physician called me and said, we don't know what her status is. She had a green card, but she had lost it. Her entire family had abandoned her. So I went to see her. I visited her. We had her somehow to sign some petitions. The process was not terribly complicated, but we were there for her. I don't see how this woman would have been able to obtain any kind of legal help if it had not been because we were there for her. You know, same for refugees, you know, people who come here fleeing persecution. They go through several countries. I have clients from Congo who have been to Peru, where I'm from, which is, you know, it's on the other side of the world. They walked, they gone through Brazil. Some of them speak Portuguese and Spanish because they have been through those countries, just fleeing persecution, trying to make it here. So, you know, it's just amazing what their stories are. And the fact that they are not being sent back to their countries where they would face certain death means that the organization is helping us save lives. And that is just remarkable. Thank you so much.
Well, I will, before we open it up for questions, echo our thanks to you for all the work you do and all the lives that you are changing. We're just happy that we can be a small piece of that and support the work that you're doing. And we'll do everything we can to convey your thanks to the community, you know, to our donors, to all of our volunteers who really are a big part of making these decisions and understanding the needs and helping to allocate the dollars where they can go to do the most work. So thank you for that. And Sam Meyer, who is our marketing director, that is, you can see her name listening in. I'm sure she'll do all she can to communicate your thanks out to the community as well, because again, it really goes back to the donors and everyone in the community that is giving and supporting the work here at United Way. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate your work, and we appreciate the community that comes together to really support that work. So we do have a little bit of time left. I know that our team members may have a few questions for you, so I will just open it up to them.
Hi, so thanks again for all the work you're doing. I think this work is incredible. It's necessary. Just thank you so much for putting your heart into it. It's obvious that you care deeply. I was wondering if you've had to pivot at all, given the current unemployment rate being so low and everyone is so desperate to hire right now, including here at my place of work. You know, are there things that can be done with corporate partnerships or trying to place folks in roles before they maybe have all their paperwork done? You know, are there things like that that are being done to try to fill the need in the community, but also to accelerate helping out some of these folks?
I can provide input, and then Miriam, feel free to jump in too. Just on the front end, we don't, our program doesn't necessarily provide employment services per se, but we have received calls from employers saying, I need employees. I know immigrants are great workers. Can you let them know I need people to work for my organization or my company, right? So that stretches, and it's not just the typical what we see about meatpacking companies or agribusinesses, but we have other businesses that are always in need of good, reliable workers. So we unfortunately don't do employment placement services, but we have that, we see that. What we do is we partner with other organizations that may do employment services and employment placement services. On our end of it, we help them, we help our clients or the future employees make sure that they have the right work authorization, and we actually educate the employers that if someone comes into the United States as a refugee, by law, they're authorized to work. They don't need to show you a traditional green card or a traditional work authorization. By law, they should be authorized to work, right? So part of what I mentioned earlier is educating employers about the different legal statuses and those that may qualify to work legally in the United States. That is so true, Michelle, when you talk about right now, we're hearing from employers saying, you know, we can't find employees. Part of that is, you know, people need a living wage. And that's what the pandemic showed us, right? Is that, I mean, and fortunately in Iowa, you know, our cost of living is probably not as high as other states. But when you think about families, you know, and COVID is an extreme illustration of who's going to be hurt, impacted the worst, is that you have immigrant families who culturally and lack of access or funding. They live in limited housing facilities where, 2 or 3 families bunk up together in a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, right? And so when COVID impacted our immigrant refugee communities, not only are the front lines of the work being impacted and exposed, but at home, they can't do the traditional isolation and quarantining that was required for folks who were impacted, right? So we were seeing all these played out. And one of the things that I'm really proud of us as an organization being able to pivot is that we respond to. So one of the things that, if I can just kind of, advertise and promote, is that I really believe Catholic Charities is really a convener of conversations. And in fact, in the last, I'd say 8 months alone, we've pulled together various different groups to talk about different topics, such as how is Catholic Charities helping unaccompanied children at the border? We may not be at the border, but those children are here in Iowa. And when they get here, what are the resources that we need to work with our partners, social service agencies, to make sure that we respond to those unaccompanied immigrant children, right? What are we doing about vaccination access for immigrants and refugees? We are the convener, and we are reaching out to our parishes and to our immigrant communities to educate and figure out how to create access and accessibility for vaccinations for this targeted population. So those are just examples of how Catholic Charities, with your funding and support, allows us to be able to pivot and be flexible and change with the times and the trends. And maybe this is just for the time being, and who knows, a year from now, there are going to be other issues that impact, because immigration is really the common thread. Everything, there's so many intersections, right? And so we, are fortunate that we have a talented team and the support of Stacy and Megan and Tracy to help us push out when we need to push out, to educate and advocate, and to also marshal the resources that we have with your support to be able to do so. So those are ways in which I think we support in the employment services piece of it, but not the traditional way that you may see in terms of employees needing help with seeking employment.
I'm so inspired. Thank you. That was a great response. I appreciate it.
I have a question. You talked about the disparity between what it costs for clients to come through Catholic Charities as opposed to private attorneys. And I know I've had experience with a friend who needed to renew their visa in Houston, and they had to shell out almost $10,000. So the dollars that we spend with Catholic Charities for your services, how does that compute? I mean,
yeah, great question. Both Miriam and I can respond to that. I've been practicing for 20 years as an attorney, both in nonprofit, government, and private sector. And I can tell you that, and every state, generally has their different market value. But for an example, someone who, and you're talking about a visa extension, someone who wants to apply for, let's say, in application, someone who wants to get a green card, and let's say they married a United States citizen, and so that is their pathway to get a green card. Most private attorneys would charge them $5,000 to $6,000 for the process, right? We may charge them between $800 and $900. So the percentage, I mean, the average that you can probably think about is our fees are always going to be less. They probably amount to about 15 to 20% of what a private attorney here in Iowa would charge. And sometimes, honestly, it's even, I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars. So our fees are probably going to be, maybe 5% or 10%. And here's the challenge. And we also take on complicated, time-consuming cases. Miriam has, quite a bit on her plate of doing a lot of immigration court work. So part of your funding support allows us to represent clients in immigration court. And our immigration court with the federal district is actually in Omaha, Nebraska. So Miriam has to travel down to Omaha, Nebraska every time there's a court hearing with a client to talk to the judge and talk to the judge and ask for relief on behalf of a client. And those, if you talk to a private attorney, that is going to always be in the thousands of dollars in terms of representing a client. So when we are working with unaccompanied children who are here alone and abandoned and made the harrowing journey to the United States, they have not a penny to their name. How are they going to go represent themselves in court? They're 15, 13, 12 years old, and to ask for, you know what, right? And so that's what your funding and your support allows Miriam and our team to do, is to advocate, represent those vulnerable clients before immigration court, before the federal government, Department of Homeland Security, before the Department of State with respect to the visa processing. So yes, Rosalind, our fees will always be significantly less than a private attorney's.
I just want to add what an asylum would cost. A lot of our clients are asylees, or they're asking for asylum because they would actually be killed if they were sent back to their countries. And most attorneys who do asylum work in court charge hourly. So in Iowa, that would be between 200, I would say, an attorney who's just starting off would probably be 150 to 2, and then somebody like Zer, like myself, would be like 250 to 350 an hour. Okay, so you know, one of my clients who was a woman who was raped in Guatemala, and when she reported a rape, the cops at the police station scolded her mother because, you know, told her mother, how do you let her walk out by herself? That's why she was raped. So she got pregnant of the rape, and she didn't even know she was pregnant until she was close to giving birth. So she was, I believe, 16 or 17 when that happened. She walked here. She walked here with her baby. And, you know, when she met with me, you know, this is a child, you know, with another child. And her case is in court. And, you know, if I was in private practice, I would have to tell her, okay, I need a retainer of $5,000 to start your case. So just to think, you know, how it would be, you know, I might as well ask her for, you know, $1 million, you know, because it's that far-fetched for a person like her to have that kind of money. So yeah, I mean, for asylum cases, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. An asylum case in court, and a contested asylum case in court, I would say minimum 10,000, and we charge what, sir?
Jeez.
We charge.
Maybe we charge, depends on, we don't do, that's the other thing. We don't do billable hours. So that's the challenge, is we do flat rates. And if it takes us 40 hours to complete a case or 4 hours, that's what we're committed to. So for an asylum case, you know, as Miriam indicated, it's going to be, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. You know, we charge, you know, depending on what it is. If it's contested, we charge $1,000. But we always give our clients the option, right? We screen them if they have a financial barrier. And obviously we have payment plans too. So there are ways in which we help clients. We also want to empower clients. We want them to have skin in the game. That's why we have the minimal fees that we do. We don't want people to feel like they are, quote, a charity case. You know, for the most part, our clients want to contribute financially towards their process. They just can't, because financially they can't afford to, right? That's why we have the ability to waive fees in our program, or charge less in our program. Now, we can't control the federal government's fees, and those fees continue to go up. But we help them apply for fee waivers with the federal government too, if they qualify, right? So there are so many things that we do beyond just, let me look at your case, here's my legal advice, let me help you fill out the form. In many ways, Miriam and I, we joke and say we are essentially social workers, and that we do some of the legal work, but our clients come to us needing a referral for a therapist. I can't pay my rent this month or next month. Where can I go for help? We're fortunate that we just recently are able to also bring on board case managers on site into our Dubuque and Cedar Rapids office. You know, hopefully in the future, that might be something in Waterloo, so that we can have a case manager on site. So as soon as they're done with us with their legal consultations or legal issue, we can say, we know that you talked about the struggles with respect to paying your rent. our case managers next door, talk to our case manager. He or she will help you navigate those systems, because immigrants, our immigration system, legal system, education system, healthcare system are so foreign to immigrants and refugees, and having to learn to navigate that. You know, I wish there was, I mean, I'm sure there was a United Way in the 1979 when my family came to the United States. I came as a refugee, as a child refugee, plopped in Decorah, Iowa in 1979. We had some programs, didn't have ESL programs back then, didn't have the things that we have now, but it's still a struggle for immigrants and refugees to navigate those systems and to trust those systems, right? And I think that's what we offer as Catholic Charities. We're so lucky to have Megan. She's great at helping to educate people. This is our 90th year as Catholic Charities providing these services to this community. And it's a blessing for me to have come to the United States as a refugee, being sponsored by a Lutheran church, and now coming back to work for another faith-based organization as an attorney to help other immigrants and refugees navigate these systems. So it's really coming full circle in the lives that you're changing with your support. You will probably fund and support and help another Zervang and Miriam in the future, right, with the support. So that's kind of a long response, but I just wanted you to understand the significant impact that your support and funding has for our program.
Yeah. A short question. Does the private attorney in Waterloo, the Cedar Valley, do they contribute money to help you do your work? I asked
I'd love to. Miriam, do you have any friends that can give us money?
Okay,
Hi.
my sister used to do this work at Minneapolis. She's head of legal services there. And she has a relationship with private attorneys where they do
That's great.
provide some pro bono work, but they also provide some money. And I just wondered if that existed here in this community.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, I didn't think so either.
But Rosalind, your point about pro bono work, that's a great point. I wanted to also share that, yes, we have volunteer services, and that's where Stacy comes in. We also, if there's an attorney in the private sector who wants to donate some of their hours to fulfill pro bono requirements as part of being an attorney, right? In different states, there may be some pro bono requirements. That's where we also continue to educate. We also provide legal education to other attorneys about immigration law. And that's what Miriam does with her participation with the Iowa State Bar and the Diversity Committee, is educate about immigration law. And then we can then from that connection recruit private bar attorneys to also provide pro bono services. Example, unaccompanied immigrant children. In addition to the legal services that we are providing, those children, if they are seeking a particular immigration relief, will also need to be put into Iowa State guardianship. And we can't do the guardianship state proceeding, but we need a pro bono attorney in Waterloo to do the guardianship in state court. And that's where our relationship with private attorneys, whether they be immigration attorneys or non-immigration attorneys, are crucial. So we have to collaborate with everybody to be able to continue to provide the services that we do. So we welcome pro bono attorneys and volunteers and interns that want to dedicate time and resources.
Thank you for the idea, Rosalind. I'm going to work toward that.
Oh, good.
I just had a quick question on your advocacy efforts. Is there any outreach to like the business community to help to educate individuals about just immigration? I mean, it's just so, I feel like it's been so politicized, and there's so many different, I don't even know. It just seems like it's just, there's just so many different perspectives, and there's so much on the news about it. But is there any, so from an advocacy perspective, you know, I work at Veridian, and we have a lot of like learning opportunities to learn about different topics, so we can better understand how to serve not only our members, but how we can be better just citizens in general. So I was just curious, when you were talking about advocacy, if that's, you know, just going into businesses and just educating, you know, kind of the masses about this work, and just really what are the facts in trying to take out the politics out of it, and like really what is going on.
Right. we do education advocacy and in different ways, in addition to presentations that Miriam and I go out and talk to all sorts of groups, not just immigrants in our parishes, but private sector too. And what comes to mind is Tyson. Pre-pandemic, we could be in person actually at their plant when they had those fairs to really be a resource there and talk and engage with their employees and HR shop so that they understand, especially because they're one of their largest workforces, refugees and immigrants, right? So whether it's Tyson, Whirlpool, those are private businesses that we partner with or have worked with in the past to educate about immigration law and what are the things that you need to know as an employer about your prospective employees. Private sector, I think that great idea. I'd love for us to maybe do some additional outreach through Chamber of Commerce too. I think that's something that would be helpful for us to continue to do outreach. Obviously, with the pandemic, the last 14 months, some of those in-person meetings have been put on pause, but hopefully now, as things relax with respect to in-person meetings and masking and whatnot, that would allow us to do some additional outreach to the Chamber of Commerce. But yeah, I know that businesses are huge partners in helping to educate, because they're the ones that are hiring, right, the immigrants and refugees, and they need this particular workforce. And so those are things in which we've been part of those, convening those conversations. In fact, we do convene quarterly, what we call our Cedar Valley Multicultural Resource Meeting. And this is when we invite an entire community, not just nonprofits, but businesses to be part of that conversation, to hear what's happening in the community as it relates to immigrants and refugees. Whether it's Tyson saying they've got this issue and want to work out some strategy, or whether it's a different business in Waterloo or Cedar Valley that wants to discuss how we can reach out to immigrant refugee population. Those are things that we can do and we've done.
And I have given a talk at Viridian, invited by Angela Weekly a couple of years ago.
Yes, I do know Angie. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm happy to do it again. I love to just give the facts.
Yes.
It's not a matter of preferences or what your position is. You can just look at the facts. And I think that a lot of people are very misinformed about it.
I would agree.
Yeah.
We've, in terms of giving the facts, we've leveraged technology this past year to allow these type of meetings. In fact, just yesterday we did a seminar or a webinar on unaccompanied children, how people can get engaged. We had I think about almost 100 people registered, maybe close to 75 or 75 people in attendance. So through literature, meaning our Catholic Charities newsletter, in our Catholic Keeping Families Together component, which is the highlight of the immigration component. So written literature, webinars, and giving presentations in the past in person. Those are ways in which we hope to continue to educate and reach out to different components in our community, both private sector and nonprofit sectors.